Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. This is your host, Wayne Bradley. Thank you for listening in tonight and joining me on the weekly news. Tonight I'm going to have a guest who we had a communication issue last week with, but Rick Barber, who's running for Congress in the 2nd District in Alabama, should be joining me soon. So while I'm waiting for him to join me, I'll be talking a little bit about what's going on in the news this week. We're at day 78, I believe it is, and we still haven't got any resolution yet on getting the oil drilling situation taken care of in the Gulf. And again, I don't really hear the media getting too mad about that right now. Over the last couple of days, where we watched transpire, it appears now that the president has hired someone to look over Medicare now. That is someone that believes in the death panel. So it'll be very interesting to see exactly how this plays out. The president has so far, in my estimation, he's dropped the ball on a few things, and the biggest thing I would say, the biggest issue that Americans are concerned about is jobs. Creating an environment, and government is not the person that should be creating the jobs. We need to create an environment that's going to make businesses want to do, inspire people to want to do more business, create more, and invest more in their businesses here in America. We're starting to hear more and more stories about fines for companies that don't use government-approved insurance plans. We're talking $3,000 per employee. I mean, these are the kind of things that make people not want to do business here in America. And I think we really need to pay attention to what's going on. We're finding out more and more about this health care bill, months later, because, again, it was 2,700 pages. It's going to take a long time to sift through all that. And day by day, we're finding out more and more about the situation. So I'm hoping, like I said, speaking with future congressmen here, I'm hoping we can get some ideas and some creative solutions to these problems, because the path that America's heading down right now is not a good one. If you're listening in tonight, you want to call in before and talk about it, 347-996-3175. The call-in number is 347-996-3175. Hopefully we'll have Rick Barber on the show very soon. I know on the campaign trail things get a little hectic out there. Next week I'm going to have Eric Rush on my show. He's an author, and he's a journalist that wrote the story initially on Barack Obama's ties to the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. So look forward to having him come on the show next week. I believe that's next Thursday at 9 p.m. So that'll be a very interesting show. Right now, we're still seeing that the border situation, the Arizona governor, she nixed the conference over the immigration law, because she's just, like I said, they've been hit with a lawsuit now. And what you have with this current Attorney General, Eric Holder, is someone that he's pretty much an activist. These guys, this lawsuit that they're bringing against Arizona is nothing more than, again, a political piece, something to use as a statement to make about how they obviously feel about the immigration issue. And I believe that what you're going to see is a lot more people trying. Obama's going to be trying to pass amnesty soon. So with that, I'm going to take my call here. Caller, are you on the air?
Hey, this is Rick Barber. How are you?
Rick, how are you doing today?
Doing wonderful. How are you?
Great. Thanks for joining us this evening. How are you doing?
Wonderful.
Great. And look, for the people that aren't familiar with you, we have a lot of people that are listening that are familiar with you. Can you give us your story? What made you want to run for Congress? You have a very impressive background, and I want all my listeners to know more about Rick Barber.
Sure. So the Reader's Digest version is I'm a small business owner. I've created 3 different businesses. I live in Montgomery, Alabama, and I also served in the Marine Corps. My father is a Marine, retired, and then my brother also served. So just got a good military and business background, and got involved in the Tea Party last year because, most like a lot of other Americans, I was frustrated with the disconnect that's in Washington and the lack of leadership that's up there, and there's the really poor decision-making that is not in tune with the decisions that are made in our everyday lives, and especially in my life as a business owner. And I got tired of standing by and not doing anything about it, and realized that the only way we're going to get different leadership in Washington is if different types of people run and we get them elected. So we stepped up to the call, and here we are.
So this was your first time actually getting involved in a political campaign?
Oh, yeah. If anybody ever asked me a year ago this time if I ever considered running for public office, I literally would have laughed at them.
Wow. And I'm looking at you have a pretty successful business background. Can you tell people a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so in 2001, I started a technology consulting firm called Applied Computers and Consulting. I'm a network engineer by trade. I design networks and infrastructures for businesses and help them be more efficient and more profitable, and grew that business to just over $1 million a year in revenue, and was approached by a much bigger company called Inline. Inline is about a $32 million privately held company here in Montgomery, Alabama. And we did kind of a stock acquisition, and I'm a VP in that company now. Aside from that, we opened up 2 other businesses that were billiard facilities. Me and my wife are big fans of the game of pool and billiards, and we wanted some first-class facilities here in town, and there weren't any at the time. And so we stepped forward and opened those up, and we've sold one since, but we still have another one today called Deja Vu Billiards.
Okay, excellent. And so, obviously, with your business background, what do you think America needs to do to start putting ourselves back in the position to creating more jobs?
Well, I mean, the first thing we do is we stop taking the incentive out of being a business owner. The reason I got involved with the Tea Party was because, as a business owner, every year over the past 10 years, the incentive for being in business for myself was being taken away. It was becoming too hard to be competitive. Every time we turned around, there was a new regulation, a new license, a new fee, a new tax, and it was just making it impossible to be successful more and more every day. And so, if you want people like me that are willing to invest our money and risk our money to be successful, then you can't take away the benefit for doing it. And that's hopefully to provide a good long-term foundation and income for your family, and also be able to provide a good establishment for which the people that work for you can work. And we need to start embracing the small business sector versus alienating it like we're doing. And that's what I'd like to see done. We have a lot of alignment with big government and big business. But what we really need is an alignment between small business and government in regards to getting out of our way so that we can do what we know how to do best.
Right. What will be the first issue, Rick, that you would tackle if elected to Congress?
Let me tell you what, the first thing I really want to do when I get to Congress, first and foremost, is to fund the health care bill.
Okay.
Work to do that, and of course, do the regular things as far as fight to balance the budget, and just do some things that will naturally trigger other things to happen. Right. But more than anything, I want to be up there and I want to be an informer for the people. I want to get up there and let people know what's really going on in Congress, what do they need to be aware of, not just for my district, but for the entire nation, because I believe that the only way that we're going to turn this country around is if we engage the everyday citizen and use the megaphone, use the media that we have to let them know, here's what's going on, here's what you need to know. You've got folks like yourself and other commentators all across the U.S. that are trying to pull this weight, and our leaders are fighting against you.
Right.
And we need people that are willing to stand tall and educate the people and bring them into the fold. And I think when we do that, and America gets a taste of leaders that are willing to do that, we can make miracles happen in this country. We're too divided. We once were a nation of Americans, and now we're a nation of segregated Americans, whether it be by race, by class, whatever the case may be. And we have got to shift that paradigm in this country.
Right. I totally agree with you on that. You've got a lot of support from the Tea Party, and obviously, like you said, you were a part of the Tea Party movement. What do you think overall their effect has been on political races and on obviously on the future of this country?
Well, I think overall the Tea Parties are absolutely influencing the elections this time around, not just from physically getting out and voting, but for educating other people that, again, maybe weren't real politically active before. And so you have a big, large portion of unregistered, unknown voters that are showing up when you see the polls aren't reflecting what the outcome is, because you have this huge number of people that weren't on the radar before.
Right.
And that's good, because I think the minute people see that they can affect change, and that mentality of my vote doesn't matter is proven to be wrong, is, again, when you'll find that people will start realizing how much government has shifted away from what it was originally intended to do by our founding fathers, and they'll start rejecting all this government in their life, and they'll start rejecting all this taxation that's on top of us today and this march towards socialism that I believe we're facing.
Right. Are you someone that believes in the fair tax proposals that have been out here, going around? I've heard from people from Michigan, obviously on a national level. Would you favor a fair tax as far as tax reform, or would it be something?
I am a fair tax educator. I've given workshops on the fair tax at my place of business. I absolutely believe it is the number one option for reforming our tax code, and our current tax code is the number one tool that our leaders use today to hold down the economy, to control the flow of money, and that breeds the corruption that we have in public office.
How long, Rick, do you think it would take to implement that program and also get rid of this antiquated tax system that we do have?
Well, I think the key to that, the key to that's going to be, again, educating the public. The only problem the fair tax has is that most people are unaware, really, of what it is, and you have a lot of opponents of it because they like the status quo and what it does for them, that they don't want to see it change. So we need leaders in Washington that, again, will educate people and not educate so much on the fair tax, but more than anything, educate people on what the current tax code is doing to our nation and why it's such a problem. And I think when you do that, people will start demanding tax reform, and then the debate will happen in regards to what kind of tax reform is best for the nation. So we first got to raise the flag and educate people on where the problems are at. And once we do that, I think that's, again, when you'll start seeing the shift be to removing the current tax code and putting something much more fair, something much more simple, and something with a lot less corruption along with it in place.
Right. Now, as far as your campaign here, you're leading up to a runoff coming up real soon, right?
Yes, Tuesday. Oh, big day for you. Now, and an amazing thing is, as I was reading up on it, your opponent has spent a lot of money. It's been a David and Goliath kind of thing going on down there, right? Yeah, she is. She's at from $575,000 so far, and we're at about $130,000.
Wow, and that really, again, it speaks towards what the people really want, that you just can't buy an election nowadays, if that's the case. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, definitely having money makes it easier to get your name out. We were able to hold the runoff within a point. One more point, she would have been able to march forward. But, I think it speaks to how strong our message is and how much, people are talking about our message and our campaign more so than they are my opponents. I think, she's been campaigning for twice as long, too. So, and she's got a political pedigree. She's known real well. So, I mean, we had every political element that a pundit or expert would say we had working against us. People estimated we wouldn't get 10% of the vote. We got 30% of the vote. People expected that because I didn't have $500,000 and I wasn't able to self-fund my campaign that I didn't stand a chance. And we showed that a strong message, a good, strong campaign, and more than that, the sentiment that people are frustrated today has worked well for us.
Right. I really think that people are kind of tired of the career politicians. That's the feedback I get from people is that we have enough people that are in the in crowd, so to speak, and that goes for either side of the ticket as far as career-long politicians. And I think that is why people are moving towards, like you said, normal people who actually have real life experience trying to handle some of the handle the business of the politicians.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely the reason I got involved is because, as someone who has employed people, hired the right ones and fired the wrong ones, I know what it means to match the right skill sets with the need of the position. Right. And today we have a need for business leaders and military leaders in office because we have less of them today than we've ever had historically, and I think that's why you see the decisions being made that you do. People that have never balanced a budget, never had to go and review programs to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, or better yet, have ever been invested in their own decision-making before like a small business owner has, isn't going to make the same type of decisions with your money as they would with their own. Right. And people that have never wore the uniform or made the investment in our country that our soldiers have, they're not going to make the same decisions as to what the rules of engagement are into what conflicts we should or shouldn't be in, how extended our military should be. They don't understand, and that's not necessarily a fault per se that they choose to. They have the right intentions, but they don't have the skill sets to be effective. And we need to start electing people based on those skill sets they bring to the table, because, believe me, I understand it's a dog-eat-dog world up there, and you may have all the intentions in the world, but unless you have the tools to live in that environment and be effective in that environment, you're just going to be another person that falls into the black hole. And I think that's what kind of separates me from my opponent as well.
Right. Do you think that the way the current administration has handled, the examples with the oil spill and health care and these type of things, do you think that it really shows, and also with the war, the lack of experience and leadership positions? The president himself was, his biggest job was being a community organizer, and now you're starting to see some of that with some of the things that have happened, the lack of leadership skill?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can see it every day. I mean, the oil spill, which is near and dear to our heart, here in Alabama, is that man, they should have been there day one, providing organization and saying, hey, let's pull resources together again. Let's come together as a country and figure out how to fix this thing, because it wasn't like a small problem. I mean, although BP is going to get stuck with the bill and they have some experts on staff, we should have absolutely realized that was a much bigger undertaking than we should just flatly, outright, blindly trust BP to take on. And
I think that was the bigger issue, is that the president wanted to lay so much blame in the beginning. While we were playing the blame game, the oil was continuing to leak out.
That's what I'm saying. You didn't stop the bleeding. We need triage first. We need to stop the bleeding.
Right.
And when you do that first and foremost, no good leader comes in and starts pointing their fingers first. He comes in and says, let's get the situation under control, and then we'll go back and review. And even under review, you don't necessarily lay blame. You use it as a learning experience, because bad things are going to happen in life. It's just the way it is. We live in a world in which risk is a daily necessity, especially if you're going to try to pursue greatness. And we can't try to demonize individuals, businesses, just because something goes wrong every now and then. And for our government leaders today, for them, crisis is an opportunity for passing legislation, not an opportunity to bring the country together and to rise above.
And it also just appears to me that the media is just giving them carte blanche and a path to do whatever he wants on this, because I just, again, couldn't imagine if this was George Bush, that after 75, 76 days, that they wouldn't be calling for him to quit. He's been given a pass on that. The same people that are making it okay for him, you actually made it to be the worst person of the world one day with Keith Olbermann. How did that feel?
I tell people I wish you would have sent me a button or a ribbon or something I could wear, because I would probably wear it to be the worst person in the world by his standards.
Yeah, that's a good thing. You're doing something right when you make his list. I guess he took a lot of issue with your commercial. What's been the response to those commercials that you put on, like, become YouTube hits?
Yeah, we've had both positive and negative. Negative, of course, has come from the liberal side, but we knew that going in that was going to be the result. And but that's okay, because I want people to know that I am someone who is willing to literally take the fight to them, because those are the tactics they've been playing against us for decades and winning. And so, the best, we're not going to lose our freedom by an overnight takeover. We're going to lose it by giving away our freedoms a spoonful at a time, because of the tactics that the liberals and the Democrats are using. And I wanted to show people that you've got a conservative that can play by the same rules and be equally effective on the other side, and we need that type of leadership today in Washington.
Right. And Rick, right now, as we were watching this whole immigration problem, illegal immigration, may I add, problem unfold in Arizona, where do you stand on it? Do you agree with the Arizona governor? And how do you feel about this situation?
Yeah, I think Arizona has done what they is what's responsible for them to do. They're basically extending the enforcement of a federal law that already exists today, because the feds aren't doing it themselves. And I don't think they should be faulted for it. They should be applauded for it, because, again, it's another situation where the federal government could have said, wow, one, we're clearly not doing the job, but we'd be happy to have the state step up and help us out, because clearly it's a problem that's affecting all of the United States.
Right.
And, again, instead we use it as an opportunity to demonize and tell people they're doing the wrong thing, and it's appalling that's what they're trying to do. Is now they're trying to sue a state with all the other problems we have. They want to stick our legal teams and resources and taxpayer dollars on taking on a state that's doing nothing but upholding its right. I mean, people forget that we are the United States of America, not the Kingdom of America. And we need states that are willing to stand tall, because the only way you're going to fight the feds from continue to grow is to stand and push back on them. And I'm proud to see Arizona doing that.
What would be your suggestion for improving the border situation, tightening up the security? What do you think we can do to improve, border security?
Well, I mean, naturally, a good physical barrier of some type that's actually monitored and maintained would be a start. And as far as manpower, you send as much manpower necessary to send a very loud message that it's not going to be tolerated. I mean, deterrence goes so far. And there seems to be this belief that we've got to have soldiers every 10 feet in order to perfectly secure the border. Well, maybe we do it first. But I guarantee you over time, people will realize that the minute that they push too hard, that there's going to be consequences to pay. And once they do that, then you'll find you don't have to have near as many border folks to do it. And two, you embrace the states helping you out if necessary to protect their own borders. I mean, I personally would love to see us pull troops back from some of these allied territories like Japan and Germany, where we don't need the big troop presences that we have there anymore, and change the laws so that they can come help. I mean, they're trained, they're equipped, they're professional. Why aren't we using those military here versus abroad, where all we're doing is contributing mass amounts of money to another nation's economy? I mean, we're not there for security reasons anymore. It's more of an economic basis.
And dealing with that and realizing that again, you said tighten up the borders with a better fence, and then maybe, like you said, bring in some other people. Why do you think so far the administration has failed to step up their efforts, besides obviously filing a lawsuit?
Well, I think that the question, you got two things. You got one, securing the border. I mean, how do we stop the flow of illegal immigrants into the country first and foremost? And that's how you do it. You put a physical barrier up, you make sure it's manned enough so you can stop them, and you send a very loud message that we're not going to tolerate people coming here illegally. Second thing you do is you go back and you get rid of all these social programs and these misinterpretations of the laws that's making it so comfortable for them to be here and so enticing for them to be here illegally. Right. When you do that, you have a two-pronged approach that will help you eliminate those that are here illegally already, as well as destroy the incentive for them to come here illegally. And, again, you create an environment that says that if you want to come here because you want a better life, we want you here. But you've got to come through and sign the guest book. You've got to learn our culture. You've got to learn our language. And you've got to want to be an American. And we need to get back to promoting being American. That's something else we seem to have gotten away from that I mentioned earlier again, is that we want people to come here to be Asian Americans or African Americans or Latino Americans, whatever the case may be, and we don't want people to come here to be Americans again. If you don't want to come here and be part of our culture and part of our history and be a producing part of our society, we don't want you, and that should be the message.
Totally agree. Now, someone like yourself, you come from an engineering background. Education is probably very important to you. What do you think is some of the things we can do to obviously improve education in America? Because that is going to be for the future. That's one of the things we definitely have to improve on. What would be some of your suggestions for improving the educational systems here in America?
Well, if I had a magic wand, I would abolish the Department of Education altogether and give the freedom back to the states and let parents have the choice again. But since we don't live in that perfect world, I'm not given a magic wand. What you can do is start working towards that. And the best way to do that, I believe, is with a universal tax credit that gives parents, again, the choice to choose where their children go to school. It's amazing to me that the people that are worst affected by the Department of Education are the ones that stand up for it the most. Yes, and I think it's because of their lack of understanding of how compartmentalizing our Department of Education and the rules in which it operates under are. Nobody should be forced to go to a school that's in their area if it's an underperforming school just because that's where they live. Right. And it's appalling that we have a system like that. Plus, we have an education system, and the minute you put a federal-level mandate or some kind of universal criteria to the outcome. Is now what you're doing is you're creating an environment of equal results versus equal opportunity. And every child in this world has a different set of skills, a different set of talents, and a different level of education in which they will achieve. And we should embrace each child individually, not try to make them all robots or learning the same criteria, if you will. Education seems to be based on everyone knowing these particular answers to something versus being passionate about math or being excited about history. And if you give parents the choice, then what you're going to do is you're going to bring some free market principles into the mix, and it will start regulating the schools for you. Bad schools will fail, as they should. New schools will rise up, and they will hire good teachers. They will demand good results. But more than anything, they will demand that the students that come to their schools are good students and that parents are good parents. Private schools, on average, at least here, spend less than our public on a per-student basis. But you know what? They require that kids behave. They require that there's drug screenings. They require, these things that the public education system says you can't require those things. That'd be racism. That'd be whatever the label may be, and then it's wrong. And it's right to say, well, then you have more of a public babysitting system, and you see that with people.
That's essentially what it's become. I'm from the Detroit area, and I'm a product of the actual Detroit public schools. I made it out, thank goodness. But I mean, that's the gist of it. There, a lot of the teachers look at it. That's what they look at it as, and they look like it's collecting a check. And we got to get back to making everyone from all angles accountable for these, for our children and our education system.
Well, we have a lot of great teachers out there that are not able to teach because they're given these unfunded mandates. They're given these structures that they just don't work. But they're required to do them because, again, there's this overseeing authority that says this is how you should be doing it. And that's not how you teach. If we'd let teachers teach, just like we'd let business owners create jobs, get government out of the way, I promise you, you will find a overall significant boom in our education system as well as in our economy. But we just got to be strong enough to demand it and let it happen.
Excellent. Now, as far as you being a military man, how do you look at the way we're dealing with our problems abroad, in particular with the treatment of Israel?
Yeah, so we have got to support Israel. Bottom line. Now, that's not to say that we should blanketly support everything Israel does. Just like any nation, they're not perfect, just like we're not. But overall, they are a beacon of democracy in a nightmarish world over there that's under constant threat and need to be helped out as far as making sure that they're protected. I think we should review how much money we're spending over there and what it's being used for. We should review some of the things that Israel may be doing with Palestine and give some feedback on what our thoughts and opinions are. But overall, Israel is a beacon of hope out there that we should embrace and we should support them as our ally.
Do you think that we're spreading our military thin right now with the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and is it just basically a necessary thing that we need to do right now?
No, we absolutely are spread too thin. And more than that, we've got to change this mentality that we can just go to war without declaring war. We continue in all areas of government to find ways to bypass the rules and the checks and balances in which the Constitution demand. And the conflicts in Afghanistan everywhere else are clear examples of that. If we should absolutely fight threats abroad. We do not want to have to fight terrorists on our soil. That is 100%, I think, believed by most people. But at the same time, if you identify a threat and it is significant enough that all other avenues of eliminating that threat with force are taken, then you make the choice to declare war. And when you declare war, you put all the resources necessary to win behind it. You put the troop levels and the mission in place so that you can be victorious. And you make sure you support your troops with the materials they need, the leadway they need to go accomplish the mission as quickly as possible with the least amount of lives being lost. And then you come back home and you continue to project strength so that that threat does not want to come after you again. Right. And we don't seem to want to do that anymore. We want to get into these nation-building missions. We want to change the rules of engagement for our soldiers so they can't properly defend themselves. And then, golly, when they go and do something to defend themselves, that somebody who's never wore a uniform thinks is out of line, like with the Navy SEALs and punching that terrorist, we want to court-martial them. And so you're putting troops in harm's way, taking away their ability to defend themselves effectively, spending a lot of money, and then instilling fear in our soldiers that they may do something wrong in a situation that none of these folks that are making the rules have ever been in before in their lives. It is absolutely appalling, to say the least, that we are allowing this to happen. And I think, it all goes back to the fact that we have so little military leaders in office that can say this is wrong, and are not listening to the troops on the ground, and they should be. So I believe we should be getting out of Afghanistan. Out of Iraq. We should either figure out what needs to be done and see if there is still a real threat. If we're still harboring terrorists and breeding terrorists in Afghanistan, then let's figure out a way to make sure we end it quickly and bring those troops back home. But more than anything, just project strength and make sure that if there's a threat, again, let's go do something that makes a statement, bring it back home, and make sure those folks change their mind. And then, again, secure your border so that another 9/11 doesn't happen.
Right, exactly. It's all part of a puzzle, making all the right decisions on that, and I agree with you on that.
The ripple effect, yeah, no doubt.
Exactly. How did you feel last week on the Second Amendment ruling? Barely 5-4. That obviously they ratified the Second Amendment basically with their ruling.
Yeah, it's somewhat humorous because you wonder how many times do we have to take the same issue to the Supreme Court and have them say, yes, the Constitution means what it says.
Right. Like I said, it was a very slim margin, 5-4.
Well, it's going to be because you got the four liberals and on that panel that are always vote the way they will. But what floors me is there shouldn't be this ability to go back and have it tried again, which I'm sure is going to happen in the next few years. Right. At some point, the Supreme Court ruling should be the Supreme Court ruling. But you're going to find that they'll find another angle, another way to phrase it so that they can try to bring it back up to the table again, because our government doesn't want the people to have the ability to defend themselves. Because I guarantee you, without the Second Amendment right that's been there, I believe this country would be in a lot worse place today than it has been, because it is that overlooming belief that the people can and will defend themselves if government goes too far that keeps them in check ultimately. And that is why the Founding Fathers put it there. These folks that think it's there for rabbit hunting have lost their minds. It was there to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. So I wish more people would exercise their Second Amendment right. That would help tremendously, that even people that say they support it, they don't own a firearm, they don't go out and exercise it, and the best way to protect your right is to exercise it. And I wish more people would do that.
Amen to that, Rick. Well, for people listening out here, I mean, you covered a lot of the issues with me, and like I said, I can, when I listen to your platform and your vision, I see that you be an excellent candidate for Congress. Can you give everyone your website address so they want to learn more about you and obviously support the campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. Barber for Congress is the website, BARBER for Congress.com. You can see all of our ads. You can even see a debate between me and my counterpart that we just had in Dothan. And naturally, again, we are the significant underdog candidate. Every penny we get would tremendously help us get the final media blitz out. And if there's a question that maybe I didn't answer or didn't get asked today, feel free to shoot an email from the website. It comes directly to me, and I do return phone calls and I do return emails.
So I want to let people know that, too, because that's one thing I want to let people know. Last week, we had the miscommunication for the interview. You personally called me yourself, and we got back in touch with each other, and I really appreciate that. Like I said, and you were sincerely, sorry about missing that appointment. So I really do. I can appreciate your availability, and I can speak for you that if you do call this man and leave a message, he will return the message and get back in touch with you. Those are the kind of people we need as our leaders right now. People that are actually connected with the people. So you definitely, I can vouch for you on that, Rick. You really, I appreciate the way you took care of that situation.
Well, I appreciate you giving me a chance to come back on. That absolutely was my fault and no one else's, and I think it's also important leaders fess up when they've screwed up and not lay the blame on someone else. So
I agree, and I actually said when I listened to that, I said, now, how often will the leader take the fall? You could have obviously said you blew that off on somebody else, and you didn't. So, again, that's personally coming from me. I can vouch for you on that. I feel good in saying that. that you're accountable at all times, and those are the kind of people we need in Congress. So I wish you luck with the campaign. Like I see, you got to next week. Hopefully you get through that so we can see you go all the way to D.C. Give all the listeners, again, your website address so they can go on there and contribute.
barberforcongress.com.
All right. Well, Rick, good luck with the rest of the campaign. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. God bless you, sir.
Thank you. You have a blessed evening as well.
All right.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So that was Rick Barber, who is running for Congress, 2nd District of Alabama. I really hope that people who are listening tonight, again, will go to the website, Barber for Congress, and support rickbarberforcongress.com and support his campaign because, again, he's running against an established Republican candidate, and he needs your support. Again, I can't stress to people enough that regardless of what state you live in or what district you live in, these people who are running for Congress are going to be affecting your future. So I encourage you to get more involved. Listen to these people. Listen to your candidates on the issues because, again, he's running for Congress in the 2nd District in Alabama. He's still going to end up creating laws and things that are going to affect all of our futures. So I encourage people to look at all the conservative candidates throughout the country that are for smaller government, following the Constitution. These are the people we need as our leaders. So I want to thank Rick for coming on again. And he manned up on the mistake that he made last week, and I think, again, that was refreshing in itself because doing the work that I did with, you rarely can get straight answers from people, and there's always someone willing to pass the buck on to somebody else. So, Rick, God bless you. I hope that you win out in your race. Wishing you the best of luck. Again, Alabama needs you, and again, the rest of the country needs leaders like this who, again, aren't career politicians, regular Americans like you and me that are willing to step up and do something to contribute and make this country better. When I started this radio show, that was my intention, was to in the beginning it was more to focus on the politics of what's going on throughout the country, and I did have, I wanted to promote obviously more black conservative candidates throughout the country, but it's gotten so much bigger than that because it's not about a color issue, it's more of an issue of what we can do to get this whole country back on the right path. So again, I encourage people to go look at Rick Barber for Congress, look at his website. The same way last night I told you to go check out Bill Randall. We need good conservative candidates that are going to help get America back on the right track. If you're listening in tonight, you can call in on the call-in number, 347-996-3175. We're going to be going off the air soon. I want to thank Rick Barber for, again, coming on the show tonight. All my people in Alabama that are listening in, thanks for being so supportive. Victoria, I know you're listening. I hope you enjoyed the interview this evening, and I appreciate all your support. And we're going to talk soon about the whole I-Caucus thing going on down there. So, again, listen to Conservative is Cool Talk Radio. I want to tell you to go check out the website, conservativeiscool.com, for all the most recent news, recent interviews, and highlights of what's going on here in America. And I want to thank everybody for listening in tonight. I am now going off the air. I want to say good night, and God bless you.